Hey, I'm Jared, and welcome to Ask a Preschool Teacher. I started this video to answer the questions of preschool teachers and parents of preschool-age children. And today I'm going to be starting with something super topical, which is, should preschool-age students wear a mask to school? Now, a little bit about myself before I get started. This is my first video, so excuse any sound issues I might have. I'm still playing around with a few technical things, but I have been teaching preschool for 8 years in Philadelphia, and I have a master's in education from LaSalle. I also have certifications in elementary education, early childhood education, and a program specialist endorsement for English as a second language. So before I get started on answering whether or not preschool children should wear a mask to school, I just want to address three things that I'm not going to be doing in this video. The first thing I'm not going to be doing is going over the CDC guidelines for sanitation in regards to what a childcare facility or school should look like. Those are on the internet. They're very long and extensive, and you can read through them yourself. I will put a link under this video in the description, so you can log on to the CDC's website. I'm also not going to be talking much about transmission rates and just general COVID-19 information. Again, you can find a lot of that on the CDC's website. It's really helpful. And number three, I would really appreciate if you did not use this video as a way to prove your point to your child's school teachers or administrators. Whatever your child's school's policy is on wearing a mask, just follow it. I will give you some advice on how to make yourself feel more comfortable about that, but this is not a video to try and prove somebody else wrong. So let's get started. I'm going to talk about three different things in regards to whether or not children should wear masks. I'm going to talk about what the CDC says. I'm going to talk about some child development considerations for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, and I'm going to talk about my own personal experience of what it's like to work with preschool-age children. So the CDC says that masks work at preventing the spread of COVID, right? No duh. But there are other things that are important too, such as ventilation, whether or not your child's teacher is wearing a mask, and just how sanitized the room is, the classroom is when your child walks in. So that's all really important. The CDC says that young children under the age of 2 should not wear a mask, but older preschoolers should wear a mask with certain stipulations. So the CDC is pretty clear in saying that masks work, but they're also really understanding that young children might have some struggles when it comes to wearing a mask. And it should be noted that transmission rates among young children are low, but they are still possible. Kids can still get COVID-19. They can still pass COVID-19 on to other people. And it's important to understand that scientists don't really have a clear understanding as to why children don't get COVID-19 like adults do. There's no real one reason they can pinpoint. There's some theories out there, but we don't know why kids aren't getting COVID-19 like adults are getting it. And like I said, children can still give COVID to adults. Now, in terms of child developmental considerations, preschoolers are impulsive. They lack self-awareness. They don't understand what COVID-19 is the way an adult might, and they don't understand the word transmission like an adult might. So they're not going to be thinking about washing their hands and wearing a mask in the same way an adult would. And from my own personal experience, I can tell you that kids need a lot of repetition and reminders to just wash their hands appropriately and correctly. Even something as simple as getting a tissue from the tissue box requires a lot of repetition and reminders and modeling on the part of the teacher, because as any preschool teacher will know, kids might just take a tissue out of the tissue box, blow their nose, and then put it right back in the tissue box. So again, kids are impulsive, and on a normal day as a preschool teacher, keeping a clean and sanitary classroom is a big challenge. Kids put toys in their mouths, they pick their nose and they wipe it on the desk. That's just on a good day. That's when there is not a pandemic going on outside. So teachers are already going to be spending a lot of their time sanitizing. And, with COVID, the sanitation procedures have gotten a lot stricter and a lot more intensive. So a lot is going to be going into the classroom already to try and make it as safe an environment as possible. And I think it's also, worth noting that kids are not fond of wearing extra clothing. We all know that kid who will not put on their jacket even though it's 15 degrees outside. We all know that kid who takes off their shoes at nap time. So masks might be a challenge for some kids. So before you decide whether or not your child should go to school in a mask, here are some variables to consider. One is, can your child take their mask on and on without help? if your child is touching their mask a lot, it means they're touching their face a lot. And if their hands are dirty, that's, kind of a problem. If your child needs help putting their mask on and off, that means their teacher has to touch their face. And that's putting not only your child, but your child's teacher at risk for transmission. The other thing is, kids are going to go to school and they're going to be expected to wear masks for like 3 to 6 hours a day. So, your child might be able to wear a mask, for that walk you take every morning. Your child might be able to wear a mask when you go out to lunch, but are they going to be able to keep their mask on for an entire school day? Chances are you probably haven't tested that. In fact, I haven't even tested that myself as an adult, but I'm going to have to do it. So that's a big consideration to think about. And then the other big thing to think about is what preventative measures is the school taking? So, even if your child is wearing a mask, is your child's school, using CDC approved sanitation materials? Are they screening students who enter the building? Are there strict routines that are being established and followed in regards to sanitizing and screening? Are all of the adults wearing a mask at school? And what's the kids' schedule? Are they leaving the classroom? Are other teachers coming in and out of the classroom? So one big consideration, and I hate to say this, but it's true, do you trust all the adults and children in your child's class to be responsible outside of school time? Are they going to be social distancing when they're not at school? Are they going to be wearing masks when they're not at school? Are they going to be going to large gatherings or traveling across state lines? Now, some of that is an inevitability. People are no longer just sitting in their house quarantined for weeks at a time. But are they going to be responsible when they leave the house? So, think about that in terms of the other people in your child's classroom. Now, I'm not trying to sow distrust. Obviously you can't control what other people do, and that's my main point. Not that you should expect that other people aren't following guidelines, but you just can't control what other people do, and you don't know what other people are doing. So think about that in terms of whether or not you're going to send your child to preschool wearing a mask. So there's not really a simple answer to this. Baseline, feet to the fire, I would say yes, your child should wear a mask to preschool. But it's more like a yes with an if and a no with a but. And the alternative is not that you should send your child to school without a mask. I'll get to that in a second. But plain and simple, your child better than anyone. So if your school's policy is to have them wear a mask, your child is going to have to wear a mask. And at home, you can coach them on why it's important. And if it makes you feel comfortable as a parent, you can reach out to your child's teacher, be understanding and ask them to reinforce wearing masks at school. Any good preschool teacher will understand that young children are not going to want to keep a mask on, but they're not going to get upset if the child takes their mask on. They're going to try and coach them through putting the mask back on and helping them understand why it's important and safe to have one. So consider all the variables as a parent and look at what the school is doing to keep your child safe. Make sure you reinforce wearing a mask at home at the appropriate times as well. So simply put, try and send your child to school with a mask. That is the best and safest option, but make sure they understand how to take it on and off and how to use it safely. If it's not working, your better option might be to keep your child at home, especially if your school has a virtual option for your children. So just make sure you understand the risks of not sending your child to school in a mask if that's an option for you. Like I said, it's probably safer to keep them home than it is to send them to school without a mask. Okay, so that's it. If you have any other questions, I'll put my email in the video description, and you can email me all of your preschool related questions. I'll put some links for the CDC and the American Association of Pediatrics there as well in case you want more information, and I hope to hear from you all soon.